All right. Welcome back to the Grand Prairie PD podcast. I'm your host, KD. We got Nate here, and we're going to talk to Officer Ilan. This is going to be interesting. I got a bunch of questions for you, bro. I'm putting it out there. We're going all in today. All in. So before we get started, couple things. I know we're out there on social media. Make sure you like and subscribe and all of that fancy stuff that I don't have no idea about.
See if you can just name them all. Facebook.
Okay. Facebook, Twitter.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Instagram. You're always talking about DMs. You don't know what Instagram is.
Oh, Instagram. Yeah, follow me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, follow me.
It's all just GPPD podcast. And except for Twitter, it's going to be GPPD underscore podcast.
Yeah. All right, Ilan, let's hear it. What do I want to start with? First off, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
My name is Ilan. I was born in Israel in 1993. If we're getting specific, I moved to the States with my parents in 2003, so I was about 9 years old.
Yeah.
Typical, public school, went to high school, quickly realized that education and schoolwork, not for me. I don't have the attention span for it.
Me neither.
And I don't want to say I stumbled upon police work because I clearly remember speaking to my dad pretty young about potentially becoming a cop when I'm older.
Yeah.
And pretty much in high school I knew that this was what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Now, you don't, just judging from the way you sound, I get the vibe, you don't say y'all a whole lot.
I do not. I still don't.
You're not from here.
Definitely not.
Where were you spending your high school years?
In New York.
New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I said the States, but
Yeah.
New York was where we ended up.
So how was your dad? Are you? I guess native to Israel. I guess you're born there, but is that your family from there? Was it a military thing or?
No, my parents are both immigrants from the former Soviet Union.
Okay.
So they immigrated in the early 90s, and then me and my sister came out of that. They immigrated to Israel, and yeah.
So early on, do you remember, I have no clue, but how was law enforcement in Israel?
I don't really remember, but
Okay.
I know that it's very different. Actually, my cousin is a police officer there now.
Yeah.
But a lot of the law enforcement responsibilities that we have here in the States, the military does there. So they have mandatory military service. Everybody serves for the most part.
Yeah.
But it's not like here. We don't those guys don't get deployed to other countries. It's
Right.
more like the military of Border Patrol. They stay around the country and they end up taking up a lot of law enforcement responsibilities. So the police departments are mostly for investigations and stuff. I could be wrong about that, but from what I hear from my cousin, that's how it is.
Yeah. That's
Well, because they're constantly facing. Because you always hear about rocket attacks and car bombs, all kinds of stuff going off. So the stuff they're dealing with is completely different than us logging in and answering some calls.
Yeah, we're going to a loud music call, and he's like, "No, that music over there is a bomb." So,
Did you? How old were you when you left Israel?
I was 9.
Okay. Day-to-day life, how much do you remember, and how does that kind of contrast to once you got here?
It was very different. I mean, I remember it pretty well because I was old enough to I had friends there, a bunch of family. So it's a lot more, especially as a kid, it's a lot more, you get a lot more freedom. I was 6 years old. I was walking around the streets by myself, going to my grandparents' house by myself, no parental supervision, babysitting my baby sister by myself. They were leaving me. They were going to work for 10, 12 hours a day, and it was just me and her,
yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, there was a lot more freedom. And then as opposed to when I moved here and I'm even older, I'm 9 years old, 10 years old, and I can't go to school by myself without my grandmother or somebody taking me there, So it was a lot more, there was a lot more freedom for me.
Yeah.
That's to me, not knowing anything really about Israel or what life is there is like, besides some of the violent things that happen and the attacks, it seems almost backwards. I mean, I've been to New York once. I don't know if you're from I get corrected. There's a difference between New York City.
No,
and
from the city, from Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah. See, I did 12 hours there, and I was like, it was cool, but I was like, crap, I got to get out of here. There's so many people.
Yeah.
So it almost seems backwards. It almost seems like, in Israel, you would think it would be more concerned about safety. I understand you had some kind of dealing with an attack or at least witnessing some of that. You want to go into that at all?
Yeah. I witnessed quite a few, actually.
Really?
Some I don't remember. My parents would tell me about some when they're just walking with me in a stroller and you hear the sirens. You know how we have tornado sirens here?
Yeah.
They have rocket sirens there.
Oh, wow.
Sounds exactly the same. So when I moved here, funny story, like when I moved here,
Oh, no.
2 weeks here, there's a tornado siren. Me and my wife, she's also from Israel.
Yeah.
We were both like, what the hell's going on? Are we getting bombed or the Russians taking over?
They found us.
Yeah. They ain't come to New York, but they followed me to Texas. But yeah, my mom would tell me stories. Oh, she's walking with me. I'm in a stroller, sirens, and there's shelters, right? Like there's bomb shelters throughout the blocks, right? So
Oh, wow.
that's where everybody heads. And then she's like, rockets are flying over our head. We lived in like a border town, right? So we were the last town all the way to the north of the country. There was a big mountain with a bunch of military bases, and that separated us from Lebanon.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that was coming from there would usually fly over us
Oh, gotcha.
into the neighboring cities or towns. But there was a bunch of times that we got hit too. I remember it wasn't a bombing really, but in the 3rd grade, sitting in class and those alarms go off, right? And the sirens. So we're thinking it's a drill because we always did drills.
Yeah.
So all the kids know you get under the table, you put your hands on your head, and you just sit there until the drill's over. Usually about a minute or two. 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes pass. We're still under the table with our hands over our head, and we start hearing gunshots. 10, 15 minutes after that, I see my dad, who served in the IDF with the Israeli Defense Forces.
Yeah.
He appears at the door, pulls me and my buddy out of class, takes us home, tells us what happened. So that mountain where the military bases were, they do basic training there for the new kids coming in. Mm-hmm. Usually 17, 18-year-olds when they mandatory service, so they go in, they do basic training. So they were on a break. 4 or 5 of them were on a break. And a few people from the other side came by, pretty much executed those kids.
The other side being?
I mean, at that point, I don't remember what organization they were dealing with.
But
I think it was Hezbollah, but
Gotcha.
I honestly don't remember. They came from the side of Lebanon.
Gotcha.
Doesn't mean they lived there. Doesn't mean it was their government because, there was a lot of Israel's like smack in the middle of everybody that really loves them.
Right.
So they executed those kids. They took their uniforms. They couldn't take their rifles because they were basic training. They had no rifles. Okay. So the Israeli army back then used M16s, I believe, and those guys had AKs, right?
Right.
So they put their uniforms on, they hid the bodies, and they made their way into our town. At first there was nothing, like there was no shooting, nothing, and then the bombs started falling from what I remember. They started bombing, and that's when they started shooting up the town. And that's what I heard. That's what we heard when we were sitting in the class. They ended up, the military took them out relatively quick, but that was pretty interesting experience.
I imagine that changed your perspective a lot too, because the next time, you're thinking something's a drill and you're kind of waiting for that 5-minute range. You're like, okay, are we done? Or is it
not?
Is there a gunfight? Is my dad out there in a gunfight or whatever right now?
He wasn't serving at the time. He was just picking me up because he was
gotcha.
home from work. And
Gotcha.
his buddies, I guess, told him what's going on. He got information quicker than like most other people.
Sure.
Just didn't even drive, probably jogged to the school and picked us up because we lived super close.
Yeah. I could only imagine.
Yeah.
That's wow.
That's nuts.
Okay, so culture shock going from there to New York City.
Yeah, big culture shock.
Way too many people for me. Way too many people. What was
Way
that
too
like?
many people. I mean, it was cool in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it was something completely different. I was 9 years old, and anything new was cool, right? And and all the movies you watch as a kid, they're all from America. So I'm living in America now, so that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But it got old quick, By like junior high school, I hated living there.
Yeah.
Really?
But like even going back to what I said, like you just don't like. I came in with all this freedom, right? I did what I wanted when I was at home. Do your schoolwork, make sure everything's done at home, and then go out and play. Like nobody. There's no curfew. Mom's not calling me. Well, I'm sure there was a curfew. I'm just. It wasn't like you have to be home by 4 p.m.
Right.
You could be out with your friends when you're 7, 8 years old, and then you come here and you're older, and everything's like people are holding your hand. Please come with me here. You can't go here by yourself. You can't go home by yourself. Wait for your mom. Wait for your grandma. And then as I got older, just the amount of people, the way the people were. People in New York, for the most part, I don't want to generalize, but for the most part, pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking like that. What does that say about Americans that like, you're outside your school, gets shot up by Hezbollah or whoever, and you can go play with your friends, but like no, we're in America now. You got to be careful for Americans. It's like, what does that say about us? We're a bigger risk than what y'all dealt with over there.
I don't know if we're actually a bigger risk, but I feel like people here are just more overprotective.
Oh yeah.
I could say that. So
I am.
I was gonna say, here it's like we're so scared of because it takes that one incident.
Sure.
So he's saying, okay, you go outside and it's like, hey, I'm gonna hold your hand. My daughter's 11. She go outside and play. I'm sitting in the garage.
Oh yeah.
And if somebody parked down the street, I'm sitting in the garage, my AR. You can call who you want to call. I'm watching. Because we've all been conditioned to think and be ready for that one instant. So, oh man,
I feel like I'd be the same way if I had kids right now. I'd probably be the same way, even though I know how I grew up and how my wife grew up.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been here for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So I'll probably be sitting with my AR too.
Yeah.
Well, and we spend you and I spent at least a third of our lives seeing that one thing that everybody says, oh, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
not gonna happen.
time
You
and
see
time
it
again.
You see it every day.
over and over and over, and it's just like, no, it'll happen.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask you. I saw a video. I want to say the officers were in New York. First off, how many officers are up there?
Before I left, I believe just cops, so white shield officers is what we call them because their badges are white.
Uh-huh.
It was about 35,000, just police officer rank.
So like not sergeant,
Not
lieutenant?
sergeant, lieutenant, captain.
Oh,
Then
wow.
there's deputy inspectors, inspectors, chiefs, all that stuff. I can't even tell you a number for that. But it was about 35,000 when I left.
Golly.
It's a lot lower now. It's like closer to 30.
Yeah. I think that they're having the same issues that everybody else is.
Sure.
If you have a lot of turnover now because officers are getting, I'm gonna say smarter, but they're like, you know what? I can go elsewhere. I can get treated better.
Sure.
The respect thing from upper echelon. Hell, we won't even talk about pay yet. Because now a lot of these guys are going, you know what? If I'm going to do a certain amount of work, I want to be paid. So you have a lot of people just shipping out.
Man, speaking of pay, I saw some. I don't really keep up with it, but some politicians arguing back and forth about whether or not I guess New York guys in the academy should get a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the number, but the proposed raise was in the 50s.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Like $50,000?
Correct. Yeah, and I don't remember what the starting was currently.
45.
$45,000.
45.
My rookie year was 45,000.
Okay.
Yeah, how do you, unless you're with family.
You have to be. So when I moved here, people were busting my chops a little bit. It's like, oh, you haven't moved out until you were 26. I was like, I couldn't afford to move out until I was 26.
Right.
Because that's when I made it up the step ladder, I guess.
Yeah.
To a point where me and she was my girlfriend, fiance at the time, but we could together maybe afford a 1-bedroom apartment. Maybe, barely. So that's what we did. So I was 26 when I moved out, and the guys here are like, I don't get it. I was out when I was like 19. I was like, it's a little different.
You just tell them, and your damn rent was $800, so get out of here. That's not a conversation we're going to have. Okay.
So
sorry. No. I'm telling you. I told you I have a whole bunch of questions. So where we came from, a big academy class over there, I think I started with 52, and we graduated like 41. How many people in your class?
My class was 1,700 people. And that's a big class, to be fair. That's a huge class, even for NYPD standards. But yeah, it was 1,700 people.
You can go through the whole academy. It's like, man, I've never seen that guy. He's in my class.
Well, there's a guy in the academy now here who was in my class. I've never seen him before in my life. He was doing night shift when we were in the academy. I was doing day shift.
Yeah.
So I've never seen him. I have no idea who he is, but apparently we were in the same class.
Okay, so how many stations are in New York?
You'd think I would know that, but there's a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, I could probably Google that.
Yeah. And then a bunch of them you still have, were they walk-in beats or whatever? Like
foot beats?
Yeah, foot beats.
In Manhattan, there's a few.
Yeah.
The majority of them would be in Manhattan. I worked in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
We do have foot beats. They're usually for a shooting post, right? If a shooting happens, they put a few cops there on foot to prevent retaliation or whatever. most of the time it's a punishment post. To be fair,
Go walk.
well, you don't even walk; you stand. Like, yeah, it sucks. But yeah, they when I got into the academy in 2015, they started getting rid of the foot beats.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not that safe, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, they still utilize them in Manhattan because like the tourism, so they want a lot of police presence. There's actually a few stations in Manhattan that are all like foot beats.
Yeah.
Like the whole station, you just go out to your place where you're supposed to be, and you're on foot. You're walking around doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, because I saw a video, and I want to say it was up there, and somebody had walked up to an officer and poured water on, I don't know if it was a lady or a guy. But anyway, somebody off the street, they were antagonizing the officers, talking shit, and next thing you know, somebody dumped water, and the officers just kind of walked off. And so,
oh yeah, that was New York. That was a couple 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
'cause
That sounds correct.
yeah, and we're like, no. First off, you pour some water on me, and it's
Sure.
like, let's just get
because
that.
you hope it's water.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't know
that's
that.
my thing. If I know for a fact you're gonna pour, you're probably still gonna go to jail, but I'm not gonna get real.
All right, so if you're in New York, how in the world do you end up in Grand Prairie? How did you hear about it?
So I had a friend who worked with me. She used to be a cop down here I don't remember which agency. It was one of the smaller agencies a little south of us.
Okay.
She moved here because she met a guy who was a sergeant in New York, and they got married, and so she moved with him.
Oh,
right. She was part of a private law enforcement group on Facebook for this area. I don't know if it was this area or all of Texas, but I know it's a private group. She added me to it because I told her me and my wife were thinking of moving to Texas. I knew she was from Texas, so I just wanted to get some information. She's like, I added you to this group. Just make a post. Tell them who you are, how much experience, where you work, and tell them the area you want to live in, and just see what they say. So the post exploded, right? Like within 2 hours, I had like 350 comments on it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was. I was at work. I just made the post real quick, and then we just went out, and my phone just keeps ringing. I'm like, what? Who's texting me? I check my phone, and I see it's like Facebook, like all the way down on the notification list. So either every other comment said Grand Prairie straight up, or they mentioned it in a list with other departments. Like Fort Worth, Irving, and Grand Prairie were usually the three that I kept getting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
And then Lance Monty, the K-9 officer, he was part of that group. He commented on the post, and he private messaged me.
Okay.
And we started talking. He was telling me, he's like, I think this is his third department. He's like, it's the best department I've worked in. If you're in the area, come down, do a ride-along, and check it out. And I ended up actually coming down here. Didn't get to do a ride-along with him because our schedules just didn't mesh. I ended up doing a ride-along with Officer Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was during COVID, so it wasn't like we did anything super exciting. But I just kept picking his brain, asking him questions about the department. Yeah. And he would ask me questions about my department, and his jaw would drop a few times, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, I know Monroe. What are you saying to him to shock him?
Well, I asked him, how long does an arrest take in Grand Prairie? And he just looked at me like I had three heads, and I don't know, like an hour, 2 hours if it's something big. And I would smile, and he would be like, why? Like, well, why do you ask? I'm like, ask me how long an arrest takes in New York. He would ask me, and I would be like, a basic theft. We called it petted larceny. Uh-huh. So anything under $1,000 was petted larceny. Could take up to 8 or 9 hours.
Now, what part of it? Because where we came from, it depended on the day. Like you might stand in jail in line for a long time, and some of those went up to 8 hours or longer. But that was, I would say, probably not the rule.
Yeah.
But like, what's taking up most of that time?
So we don't have a jail. We have precincts, right? Mm-hmm. So every precinct has like a holding cell facility, small holding cell facility. So when you make the arrest, first of all, you have to notify a supervisor. Supervisor has to either respond, or if he knows you and he's cool with you, he can just approve it over the phone. Supervisor has to approve the arrest, right? So sometimes you wait for that.
Here's a gun and a badge. I don't trust you, though.
Exactly.
Call me.
Exactly. So he approves the arrest. We got to take him back to the station, right? Bring him back to the station. You have to book him in. So fingerprints, photographs, you do that. Then
I've seen that on so many TV shows, and so that is so fake. That's so stupid.
That is 100% real.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sometimes if people are on light duty or something and they're just wandering around the station, they'll task them with doing it. But for the most part, you're doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So you do that. Then you have to start the report. The report's on paper, right? Still, to this day, it's on paper. You have
With
to
the pen?
Well, you can do it with a pencil if you want. But
Number 2 only. Number
Yeah.
2, pencil only.
So you write up the report. Again, now you go to the desk sergeant. He has to read it over and sign it. Then you have to put it in the computer. Same thing you just wrote on paper, you have to put in the computer. And it's a stupid process. Like I could say it.
Yeah,
It
you can
sounds
say
like it's
that.
stupid on purpose.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like there was a chief somewhere. It's like, hey, you're not gonna believe what I'm gonna make them do, and then it just stuck.
Do it
Probably.
twice. Yeah.
And the funniest thing is that the different boroughs, so like the arrest processing, I can only speak to for Brooklyn, right? Because I only worked in Brooklyn. But from what I hear, it's different in Staten Island, it's different in Manhattan, it's different in the Bronx, it's different in Queens. Some are quicker,
I
some
would
are
hope so. Not everybody could have that same god awful idea.
But I mean, it's the same department, right? So
Yeah.
you would think it would be old uniform, but it's
Yeah.
not. So then it gets better. Then you have to do like a whole packet of work, and the packet's about this thick of just repetitive paperwork. The same thing you put on one piece of paper, you're putting in another piece of paper. Some of that paperwork isn't even for you, it's for the DAs, and we still have to fill it out.
Okay.
Then you have to fax it to the DA's office. Recently, they started emailing a few years
I was
ago,
gonna say we're faxing.
but still using the fax machine to email. So it's not like it's on a computer and you just email. You have to put everything through a fax machine. That's pretty cool when it jams and there's not only one fax machine in the station. Then you have to wait for them to pick up a case. So that now it's a waiting game, right? You just wait. They're going to call you, and they never call you. So you have to start harassing them. Then they get angry. They don't call you. Now they purposely don't pick up your case.
All the while, you still have the suspect.
No, I missed that part. So usually you're not the one that's going to take the suspect to central bookings, right? So downtown is where we put, like Brooklyn has their own, Manhattan has their own. So usually someone else will pick that up and they'll take your suspect to central bookings. You're staying in the station and you're waiting. When they finally call you, they have to review everything and you have to explain everything that was on a report already. You have to explain it to them again. They have to type it up, send it to you, sign it, and they release you whenever they're done. So you can't go home until you're released by the assistant district attorney.
Okay.
And something you just said jumped out to me. You said when you finish an arrest, go home. Like it's not even an option that you're going back on the street or like you've gotten done before your
It
shift
took
is
8
over.
hours.
Some guy, we work 8.5-hour shifts. So,
Okay, so yeah, you're toast.
some guys are better at it, so they'll do it quick. Quick could be 4 or 5 hours, right? But for the most part, you're getting overtime for an arrest.
When I did my ride out here, we arrested 3 or 4 people total, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and we
In a
didn't.
day.
Yes. Yeah, and we didn't, and it was good. Like we got in a foot chase. There was a burglary that went up, turned into another foot chase. It was a cool deal, and we didn't physically book in every individual. But I remember when we pulled into Sallyport, hopped out, walked them inside, and they do their thing. I mean, it couldn't have been 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And because the first thing that struck me was how willing everybody was to transport.
Yeah.
Where we're from, if people start looking around like, oh, I need somebody to transport, I'm gonna disappear.
Crickets.
I'm gonna make
Yeah.
myself
Yep.
like I'm
Same
gonna get
here.
lost. Yeah,
Exactly the same.
There, everyone's like, hey, you want me to take him down? And I was like, well, y'all are nice. Like you just don't care about being on the street, I guess. But then we showed up and it's just boom, boom, in and out, and that was one of the huge things I noticed.
Yeah.
And it is, you can literally, we can take our computers out of our car, which sounds okay, cool,
Yeah,
whatever.
it sounds minuscule.
But we couldn't do that before, so you would do the freaking book in and then hang out with your buddy, top the report on the hood or whatever, and it's like you're an hour. I mean, it's for simple arrests.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah, I mean, I remember them booking them in on scene. When I first got here, I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, they're already booked in. Booked in where?
Like, what do you mean? They're in my car.
They're sitting in the
but
back seat.
Yeah.
No. Somebody's going to wait on the record. We'll just get there and drop them off. Bro, we were in and out in like 15 minutes. And I'm like, what just happened?
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was in shock.
Yeah. Again, Grand Prairie doesn't have everything right, but man, come figure out how
Arrest
to do
processing, we have
we got that
100%
down.
locked
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
that. Yeah, we got that down. So
We need to get somebody from detention in here so we can talk to them
Yeah.
about how many people they don't realize they've actually recruited just by being good at their jobs.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah, man, that's awesome.
Now, as far as New York, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But as far as New York goes, you mentioned like on your Facebook post, you kind of laid out what experience you'd had. What all did you do there besides wait on DAs?
I didn't do much, to be honest with you, because in New York, unless you know somebody or you're related to somebody, you got to wait 5 years until you can apply anywhere, right?
So this is the second thing I'm finding out about Blue Bloods, which may be true. I'm always talking trash in that show to my wife. Every time I see the booking process, I'm like,
some of these things that they portray in the show are actually pretty accurate. They get crazy sometimes too, but some of the things like the lingo and stuff too, like it's pretty accurate.
Really?
Yeah.
5
Sorry,
years.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was
No,
like,
go ahead.
Because when she's watching that show, I'm always like, that guy gets his spot, the next guy's the detective of everything. And I'm like, there's no way that would actually, like, knowing one person doesn't get you all those places, but now you're like, no, I might be wrong about that too.
Yeah. It's who you know there, really. Which, listen, I get it, right? But it's like I know a bunch of guys that were in the academy here with me who had less time on than me and got to do way more on the job than I did, right?
In New York?
No, like guys from California,
Gotcha.
guys from like Arizona, like, and they have 4 or 5 years, and I had not that I had that much more, but I had more time on than them, right? And they did the SWAT team, they were in investigations, they did I don't know, like they did a lot of cool stuff that I just didn't get to do. I did transit right straight out of the academy. I was on the trains for 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, what does that look like?
Extremely boring. Like you're doing patrol, but you're doing it on trains and train stations. Essentially, that's it.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a good place to make money. They get a lot of federally funded overtime.
That makes sense.
But it's very, very slow paced, right? Yeah. And when you're 21, like I was, and you just got out, you don't want to be. That's a good place to end your career, not to start your career. Yeah. And then I did patrol for 3 years, and by the time I got to patrol, COVID hit, the George Floyd thing happened, and patrol we didn't do much of anything. Then I don't know if you guys heard about the diaphragm bill that they came out with in New York.
Mm-mm.
So after the whole George Floyd incident, they came out with a bill that they signed into law. It's called the diaphragm bill. Essentially, what it says that under no circumstances, even if the suspect resisting, fighting you, biting you, can you put any weight or pressure on their chest, ribs, or back, right?
Huh?
Yeah. And it says so in the bill, even if it's an accident. I'm not going to quote it exactly, but the gist of it is that even if it's an accident, they could still prosecute you.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
But look it up. It's like,
That's insane.
how do you take a person that's fighting?
Hold down?
Exactly. That was, and that's pretty much when I realized that my NYPD career was over.
Yeah.
Not that I was some, gun ho, arrest everyone, fight everyone cop.
Sure.
Yeah.
But now if you have, if it's a must arrest situation, you have to place a person under arrest and he tells you, I'm not going, and you're fighting with him, you're going to put weight on his chest.
True. That's how you control a
Exactly.
person.
Well, what I was
that
thinking
doesn't
was, even more common than the chest, even is the back. I mean, that's one of the first things. Even if someone's not fighting, you just kind of put your hand on, like, hey, just stay down, like relax until other people
Can't put any weight on their chest or back. They amended it, went away for a little while, then the state Supreme Court brought it right back. So it went away for a little while when I left, so I wasn't there for that anymore, and then they brought it right back. So,
Golly.
Could you imagine to go get your stuff and when you're checking out and they're like, yeah, here's a mouthpiece. What the hell is that for? Oh, we
can get punched in the
you're
teeth.
Gonna get punched in the mouth
get
a
here.
lot.
Nah, hell no.
Well, and the thing is, too, like thinking about it, if you're ever in a, because as a cop, we want to be protectors, obviously. We want to keep people from being hurt. So if you're in a situation where you're looking at some other individual that you're trying to keep from getting injured, and you have to make a choice between, hey, do I stop this person from being hurt right now in front of me, which I think we're all going to make that call.
Right.
But the cost of that is prosecution.
Yeah.
Golly, man.
Yeah.
Ask me how many arrests I made in my last 2 years in the NYPD.
How many?
5.
What?
5. In the last 2 years of my NYPD career, I made 5 arrests.
I'm not going to end this
I mean, that's a 40-hour week, so.
Wow.
Yep. I made more than that in my first week here on FTO.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Speechless.
Because I don't want to
What'd you
seem
do
like
every
we're bashing,
Hobo.
NYPD. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between, like you and I have always said, there's a difference between an organization and its historical prominence the line guys who work there, and then the way that the state legislator is laid out to allow people who don't understand or have experience in law enforcement to make the rules for law enforcement.
Absolutely.
So, like we talk about our old department, which is why we're still not allowed to say where it is, in what would seem like a negative way, and it's not, the department's not negative. I have family on the department I came from. But unfortunately, it's just the forces outside the department, outside the guys who want to do their job, keep them from being able to
it restricts you. Yeah.
Sure.
Man, that's crazy. 5 arrests.
Now, you, cause like that rule about like the chest and the back, it's maybe to somebody, excuse me, maybe it's for somebody who doesn't have any experience whatsoever. That sounds like, well, okay, you're telling they got all the rest of their body. Why can't you just handcuff them or whatever? So I can see maybe make some sense to someone who just has never like even been pushed before.
I was going to say you've never had a fight or wrestled,
right?
Sure.
But even to the average cop, we're just going. No, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you were, when it comes to going hands on, you're not even. I don't know if you were at the time, but you were not even just an average cop. Like you're very experienced in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Sure.
So I imagine that even just blew your brains even more.
Absolutely, because every time that I got into a fight or a physical altercation on the streets, right? Like, and I don't mean street fight, I mean like on patrol. It was always a quick double leg takedown, mount, sit on their chest, hold their hands. That's it, right?
Right.
I'm holding their hands so they can't reach for anything because their feet aren't going to kill me, right? Especially if I'm sitting on top of them.
Right.
I'm controlling. In 8 years now, almost 8 years now, I have never thrown a punch in the street, like on patrol.
wow.
Didn't punch anyone ever, not once. Not saying I wouldn't if I had to, because some situations might, require you to use that kind of force. But in 8 years, I've never thrown a punch. 9 times out of 10, it's either a double leg or pulling the guy over and taking his back, or sitting on top of his chest, mounting him, and controlling his hands.
There you go.
So you're taking that away from me when I've done it 100 times on patrol safely, didn't hurt no one. There's no use of forces. Maybe I have like 2 use of force reports with my name on it. Because, again, some things aren't avoidable, right? I wasn't one of those guys that was getting a bunch of use of force reports because every arrest turned into violence, right? It was always a safe, double leg takedown, mount, control the hands.
Yeah.
That's it. And you take that away from me as, lawmakers who have never done the job, And now you're putting my career, you're pretty much taking my career away because I'm not going to work with that fear, of like me going to prison for, just doing my job.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're putting my safety essentially in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You guys see the videos, especially over there. Those guys, they know there's no consequences for anything. So they try to provoke you to do something that will get you on YouTube and get you in trouble. And now I can't defend myself, right? So.
Well, and I think you're a great example because what level of jiu-jitsu are you?
Now?
Yeah.
Black belt.
Okay. And how, for people who aren't aware, like, what does that look like as far as like how long have you been doing it? What have you had to do to get there?
Excuse me. I started in 2012, trained for a few months, took a little break. I started right before I was 18 years old, so I already took the test. So I knew I was gonna probably get on the job. So I just did it for myself to be able to be more competent when I do get on. Took a few years off, and then in 2015, I believe, I just started. I pretty much came back and I became obsessed. Got in with a good group of guys in one of the best gyms in the world, and started training twice a day, pretty much every day between school and work.
Yeah.
Definitely dedicated more time for that than school, that's for sure. And I promoted pretty quickly. It usually takes 10, 15 years to get black belt. I did it in 6.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And do you attribute that to, is that more like I'm asking you to brag on yourself a little bit, I guess, but is that like a natural talent deal where it's like some people just catch on to it quicker, or is that a result of most people aren't doing it twice a day?
Yeah.
It wasn't a talent thing. I mean, I might have caught on to it a little faster than like somebody, like an average person, but that's just because I'm the type of guy, like if I get obsessed with something, like I'm obsessed with it. I'm watching videos, I'm training, I'm asking questions, I'm skipping school to go to practice. So yeah, And yeah, like I said, I was doing it twice a day. I would go to work. I would go to 6:30. Was it 6:30 or 5? It was 6:30 in the morning practice. Shower up, go to work, get off at 5. 7:30 was the second practice. Wow. And then school was like part time. You know, when I was in college, it was part time. So I would fit that in somewhere in the middle.
Squeeze in school. Who needs
I just needed my credits. I knew I wasn't going to get it.
That's the exact approach I took. Yeah, I was going to college was the dumbest waste of money I ever. But, you know, what I was saying was talking about all the experience and all the time you spent grappling, and then you have a situation in New York where something happens that's ridiculously, inexcusably wrong, and what you're resorting to is to take away the very thing that has you being someone who doesn't have a whole lot of uses of force. Because what I found is a lot of times you have the guys and girls who have a lot of uses of force because they don't know how to talk to people, or they tense up, or they don't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I find that uses of force tend to be the result of lack of experience and lack of comfort. Grappling with somebody or being able to use something besides a punch or a taser that's going to result in a use of force.
Yeah.
I would hate to, like, oh, I'm not going to jail if my warranted, then it's you. This dude's kicked the crap out of me. That's why when you're talking about, oh, yeah, it's all double leg takedowns. And I'm like, yeah, I know how that feels.
Okay, so I guess because I'm sitting over here going, what's a double leg takedown?
When you grab a guy's legs and you just lift him off the ground. Kind of fall on top of him.
Oh, okay.
From our perspective, it's where you're standing up 1 second and then the next second you can't move. Yeah.
Yeah. So turn just a little bit. So then you start coming to Grand Prairie. What did your fiance or wife at the time, what did she say when you're like, babe, let's go on and make this fly down south? What did she say?
Well, that conversation started quite a few years ago. It wasn't necessarily Texas yet. It was Texas, Florida, other places. She didn't want to leave, and that was years prior to the final decision, right? She didn't want to leave because she's close to her family. They're a pretty tight family, and I got that. But I really wanted to leave, right? And when the whole rioting thing started in New York, it was almost a month of like nonstop, 12-hour days, no days off. So she saw that. She saw how we were treated on patrol. She took that into account. And then the whole COVID thing with the restrictions and everything, and how half the country was open, half the country wasn't. And we couldn't even go into a restaurant to just eat. We had to sit outside, wear a mask outside, take it off to, take a bite, put it back on, and do that song. And that didn't last for too long, but still. And all those things together, and at one point we had a conversation. I was like, I think we need to go down and start looking at better places to live.
Okay, stop. Let me lower my mask so I can eat. Bro, I'd have just ate a hole in my mask. Damn.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I knew I was looking forward to this interview, bro. Holy crap. New York. Welcome to Texas.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How's it been? Like, because like when I went to New York and I went there for a few hours on a layover, but like I got we were in Newark, New Jersey, took the train over to New York City, yeah, and I don't know, it's all
New York City.
It's all New York to me.
But then I got off and I'm looking around all the people, and you walk up the stairs and there's the city. It's like I just walked off the set of Home Alone when I was a kid. I was like, oh my God, this is a real place. It felt like a movie. Yeah. Has it kind of been similar like to that for you being in Texas? I mean, obviously the exact opposite of the.
No, when the first time I came here, we went to Austin because my buddy has a house out there.
That's not.
I didn't know that then.
That ain't Texas.
And I show up. It was during COVID. We were trying to get out, have some sort of a normal, friends gathering. We have friends from California. He lives in Austin. We're from New York, so we all met up here. Well, in Austin. And I was like, oh, that looks a lot like New York. I expected
the same thing, just with purple hair.
We had a lot of purple hair in New York too. I expected like cowboys, cowboy hats everywhere. And no, it was like a regular city. So I don't want to say I was disappointed. I was kind of shocked. I was like, I guess it's, BS. Everything I saw on TV. I watched Walker, Texas Ranger back in the day. That's not what that was like. But when I came down here, because we knew we weren't going to be, like, if we moved, we knew we weren't going to move to Austin because it was too much like New York. And the people I spoke to told me DFW. And my wife, actually, she works for JP Morgan. Mm-hmm. They have an office in Plano. And back in, like, 2019, 2020, they were actually pushing a lot of those guys out. Like, they were offering them pretty good incentives to go move to Plano. They're like, they would pay for their flights, their what do you call it?
Moving expenses.
Moving expenses, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't get a chance to use that because we waited too long. But, we knew that if we were to move, this area would be the best one because she keeps her job, same salary, less taxes. That's always nice.
Right.
So that's why I started looking in this area. And then we went, the first time we went to Fort Worth and we saw the stockyards, I was like, that's what I was looking for. Yeah,
that's
There's the horses.
Yeah, they're the cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So, do you have some boots yet?
I do, actually. One pair. I waited a year.
Yeah.
I had to earn it. I had to live here for a year.
Respectable. Yeah.
I don't have a hat yet.
No.
No.
We gotta get you.
Gotta wait another 6 months.
Okay.
Timelines.
Are you going to wear the one on duty?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. Can't do it.
It does look a little goofy.
Yeah.
But when you're like me and somebody turns the wrong light on and you get melanoma, it's like you don't really have a choice.
You gotta do it.
Do you have a truck?
I do.
See, I think you should have got the hat for the truck.
Yeah.
Can you drive the truck? Because every time I see someone not able to park a truck, I
It hurts.
cuss them out.
I'm from New York. I can parallel park a truck.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
People from California cannot.
They cannot. Or drive, for that matter.
Yeah. As he offends everybody.
Now you just got a new spot on the department.
Yeah.
So how long? I don't even know how long you've been here.
I've been here since January of 2022.
Okay.
All right.
So not too long.
Right.
Yeah.
So you worked patrol up until that.
Yeah.
What was your experience like on that? I mean, coming from New York.
On patrol?
What was your biggest takeaway or the biggest thing that you noticed?
I mean, patrol's patrol, right? So technically the job's the same. You respond to calls, you try to do some proactive work. It was there's a lot more freedom here, right? I don't have to call a sergeant to make an arrest.
Yeah. No. You're grown here.
Yeah, like they actually trust you to do the job that they hired you to do, which is pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. Certain things were different, like the whole you can't make an arrest for misdemeanor outside of your view.
Okay.
That was not a thing in New York that you could easily make that, and I did it in.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I did it in field training and in front of a sergeant and my FTO, and nobody said anything. I'm cuffing the guy, cuffing him. I'm like, "Sir, you're under arrest." Cuffing the guy, putting him in the car. I'm all proud of myself. I'm like, "Yeah." The sergeant saw that. I made a good arrest. I conducted a good investigation. My FTO is gonna be proud. FTO gets in the car with me, and he's just looking at me like, "You're an idiot." And I'm looking back at him, and I'm confused. I'm like, why is he giving me this look? And I'm sweating because, like, I had a rough week the week prior to that with geography and a whole bunch of stuff. And I was trying to make the guy proud, and he's just staring like a hole through my soul. And he goes, "So what'd you arrest him for?" I'm like, "Criminal miss." He goes, "Huh, interesting. Did you see him do it?" And then when he said that, like, I guess the academy came back to my head, and I'm like, "Oh my God."
Sir, you're free to go.
Yeah. Like,
"Sir, here's a ticket and you're free to go."
In my back seat.
Yeah. That was awkward. Never did it again, though.
I bet not.
Yeah. Still scarred.
Yeah, you learn.
That's
But yeah, other than that, I feel like you get to do more here, even on patrol, right? Like, conduct your own investigations and stuff. You can do more proactive things without really, worry. In New York, I would come out of roll call, get my car. Me and my partner would get our car. And here you can get one call assigned. We get up to 5 assigned. Good luck doing anything proactive. When you clear one call, you have 4 more, and then before you get to the next one, they
call
get
sign being like an area or a beat.
No, you get how so we had sectors, right? We had Adam, Boyd, Charlie, and David sector, right?
Okay.
So our precinct's divided into 4 parts. So I was sector Charlie for my whole stint on patrol, pretty much. But the calls that you get, right? Like here, it's like dispatch is going to assign you one call, right? Yeah. You clear it, you go do what you got to do. If there's another one, she'll assign you another one. Yeah. We got to assign 5 at a time.
Ugh.
So you clear one, you're on the way to the second one, and there's like, "Oh, I got another one holding for you. Here's the next one." Yeah. So throughout the day, might have 20 minutes of free time sometimes if it's a busy day, you know.
Yeah.
My precinct wasn't the busiest, but it was a pretty busy place, you know. It wasn't like, I mean, I don't know if you guys know what the 7-5 precinct is or like the 4-0. Those are very busy precincts in New York. Mine was like somewhere in the middle, you know. We had slow days, but mostly it was, you know, there's a lot of nonsense calls, but there was a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah.
How new was it learning to do? Because here they're real big on, at least when I was on the street, on doing traffic stops, self-initiated, like, you know, getting drug dealers and gangbangers out of our city in jail. How much of a adjustment or how much did you learn new taking that more proactive approach?
It took a while to get used to it because, like I said, last 2 years in New York, I wasn't doing much. You know, I was answering my calls. I wasn't being like, you know, lazy by any means, but I wasn't doing anything extra to avoid getting myself in trouble. You know, like I didn't want to deal with any of that.
Yeah.
So on the busy days, it was cool because you're going call to call, and if you have to make an arrest, if it's a must arrest, then you do it. If you don't, you write your report, and you know everybody goes on their way. Here it was like, no, we want you to do this.
Right.
Like we want you to go after shady cars in the middle of the night. We want you to make traffic stops. We want you to ask people like, hey, where are you from? Like, what are you doing? Like, not like, you know, not stopping them or anything. Just like make contact, see what's going on. Like if a guy's walking around a residential neighborhood at 3:30 in the morning and he doesn't live there, it's pretty suspect, right?
Yeah, I right before we started this, I left an interview with a guy that got arrested because he was walking down the street, breaking the cars, got stopped.
Sure.
Tell me you had a backpack on it. 2:00 in the morning. Where are you going?
Exactly.
School. I'm walking.
Getting a head start.
It's a long walk. Yeah. So yeah, it took a little bit to like get out of that mindset and be like, I'm a cop again.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go do police work.
Yeah. All right. So off topic, I had a buddy said he visited New York. I don't know where he was at. He got off of some train, but he just asked somebody, "Hey man, how you doing?" Like Southern hospitality, and the guy was like, "What's it to you?"
Sure.
That's funny.
That's funny.
The thing that
People
blew
don't
me
say
away-
hello.
Yeah. So you don't speak to people up there. You
No,
don't-
you look down. You look at your sneakers and you keep walking.
Really?
Especially in Manhattan, like in the big city.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody like you're like packed like sardines on one side of the street trying to get to your office. You're not saying hello to people. You're just making your way.
Yeah.
I will say though, everybody wasn't looking down when me and my Marine buddies from Fort Worth walked through because we all look like we're from Fort Worth. Because everybody's kind of looked at us walking by like, what the hell are they doing here?
Yeah. Have you experienced it here though, like Southern hospitality, as they say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In Walmart. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me? Especially in the beginning, it's like, what do you want? You want my shoes? Like, no, you can't have my shoes.
Yeah.
It's different. It's nice, you know. Like, and that's actually the way it was in Israel. You know, like back home, like everybody was friendly to you.
Yeah.
You know, like you go to a new town, hey, how you doing? Like you're in the supermarket, people are speaking to you. But then you go to New York and you do almost 20. You live in New York for almost 20 years, and you get accustomed to the way things are there.
Right.
Yeah.
Come down here and people are nice to you again. You're like, what do you want from me? Like, why are you speaking to me?
Yeah.
Which was nice though. Like now it's cool. Like, hey, I'm good. How are you, ma'am? You know.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, I think the one way you can kind of try to ease into it or warm up to it is if someone lets you merge in traffic, just to say thank you. Because when I'd let people merge in traffic, they don't say thank you. I'm like, now I gotta get back in this lane, get in front of you, cut you back off.
I'm gonna give you a good radio channel to.
That was actually the first sign of Southern hospitality that I experienced. I was driving my truck down here with a trailer, with all my whole apartment in that trailer. I was already by the apartment where we were going to be living in Plano for a little while, and I missed my turn. And I decided to do the New York thing and just merge anyway. And the guy let me in, and he waved at me. I was like, this is a completely different world. I love it here already. I didn't even
That's
didn't
an
even
extra
unpack.
nice guy.
Super nice guy. Whoever he was.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was surprised by where I worked was like we didn't wear seatbelts a lot because you just didn't really drive all that fast just because it was more urban. There was areas you would, but for the most part, you really weren't going all that quick. But have you been in any car chases here?
Yeah.
Yet? I mean, the chases I've been a part of, you're topping 100, 120 miles an hour at times. Did you ever get to experience any of that in New York, or is that very much when you first got here, it's like, holy crap.
Car chases?
Yeah.
Unofficially.
Right.
We weren't allowed to chase.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't want to lie to you. I'm trying to think back to the policy. I think there might have been some exceptions, but I don't think so. I remember there was a video of these two cops. Not a video. It's like it's their radio recording. You know, when they're going over to dispatch,
Right.
and they're putting over that they're in pursuit. The CO, the captain, is telling them to terminate, and they were getting shot at. And he's telling them over the radio, it's like, I'm getting shot at, Cap. And he's like, terminate. So I'm pretty sure there's no policy that allows us to pursue.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
So the terminate would have been me turning my
To the radio off.
Yeah, because I'm like, this radio don't
I don't want to
work.
hear you anymore.
Bro, load that AR and we finna get it.
ARs? No ARs. No shotguns, nothing.
Just pistols?
Throw some rounds at your window.
Not just pistols. Glock 19, or it was a SIG, 15-pound trigger pull.
I don't think I felt the trigger pull like that.
I got one. I got my NYPD going at home if you want to play with it. I can bring it in.
I would actually like that.
that
That's
like 2
insane.
fingers?
Sometimes when you're tired after a day of shooting, you might use two.
Jeez.
Yeah,
So no rifles.
no rifles.
I kind of thought you were going to say revolver for a second.
Back in the day,
Yeah.
not no more.
Okay.
Way before my time.
I'm not gonna beat up on those guys.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
feel
trying
like
to
I'm just
spend the whole
crapping on them the whole
conversation.
time.
I'm sure to
I'm
find
scarred.
department. No, I mean,
But no, I only brought that up about the chases because I remember the first time when I first got here. Oops, sorry, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt or whatever, and which is so stupid. But especially here where you're going to go faster, and then the first time we get into a chase and I'm driving and I'm like sliding around, I'm like I should probably have my seatbelt on right now.
The seatbelts saved my life in New York one time.
Really?
Like legitimately saved my life. We thought we were going to an active shooter call. Should have known it wasn't an active shooter because it was the middle of the night and there was no active shooters in the mall in the middle of the night. But we got a call saying like we're watching it on camera. There's a bunch of guys, maybe not an active shooter, maybe it was like an armed robbery or something in the store.
Yeah.
They said they see a bunch of guys in the mall with rifles. So me and my partner was driving. We're booking it over there. And he's actually, for lights and sirens, he was driving pretty safe. He cleared the intersection. Guy stopped for us. He proceeds pretty slow. I have it on really grainy video. He proceeds really slow. Another guy comes around him at like 50 miles an hour and just T-bones us.
Oh, jeez.
We fly into a curb. We roll over a few times, and we're just hanging upside down. If I wasn't wearing a seatbelt then, I'm not saying I would have died, but I would have been really messed up.
Yeah.
And we were both fine. Like I had a scratch on my lip because the computer came off and smacked me in the face. But that was like the worst of it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, that seatbelt saved my life that day for sure.
Yes. Wear your seatbelts.
Wear your seatbelt.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about patrol, but now you've started a new role. Obviously, you're at the academy. I don't really know what any of the guys. I don't think the guys in the Carlos, Logan, y'all don't actually do anything, do you? No.
I see them every day. They work really hard.
What is your job description? Like what are you actually doing now?
Now I'm doing background investigations and training.
Yeah.
So applicants come in, they test, they fill out their paperwork, PHSs, and we just investigate them essentially just to make sure we're getting the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just started, so you probably don't have any kind of crazy stories, right?
No, I'm just.
No.
This is my third week, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I know a investigator, and in another city, and it's not far fetched to get somebody that, hey, I see here that you checked the box. You did drugs literally 2 days ago.
Oh man.
I'm hearing those stories left and right now. And
I mean, I hear those stories from these guys too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, no, hey, we still want cream of the crop, especially here at GP. Don't go filling out no application if you know you ain't on the right.
If you're still hungover from meth, like, why would you apply?
Yeah.
The stuff that even the interview boards, when I was in FTO, we would do the interview boards, and the stuff that would come out in those things.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, some people
We had,
apply.
I wasn't a part of this one, but one guy admitted to looking at child porn in his review board for the police department. And it was like, yeah, the job's not going to work out for you, but why don't you just hang out for a minute? We're gonna have
I was about to say,
somebody-
We can get into a nice
Yeah.
police taxi.
I got a bracelet I want
Yeah.
you to put on.
You
Sir.
get a second interview,
Yeah.
but not the job.
That's insane.
Man, well, bro, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I have no idea what our time's at, but I wanted to give you a chance if if you have anybody that's looking at moving or kind of on the fence, I guess, getting into law enforcement, anything, do you have anything you'd like to kind of share with them or advice you'd like to give?
Yeah. I mean, sure. Do your research, because a lot of people think that where they're at might not be great and everywhere else might be better. But then you end up going somewhere and it's just as bad as just in a different location. I have a buddy that did that, and now he's changing his department again, right?
Right.
So absolutely do your research, do your ride-alongs, and make sure you're ready to move, because that's a big, big, big deal. Especially when you have family, friends, you lived in a place for a very long time. You should absolutely be sure that this is the right choice for you. And your family, your wife, whatever it is. So main thing is do your research, do your ride-alongs. Make sure the department's good for you, and then the area that you're thinking about moving to is good for you.
Yeah, that's spot on. Actually, because I always tell people, especially officers, most of them that I know are laterals, go and do the ride-along. It's so important, because every city, I'm telling you, we're going to preach all day long. Every city is different. So go and do the ride-along. Ask the officers the questions to figure out if it's a good fit for you. Remember, grandprairiepolice.org. You can get on there and find out all the information, pay, all the incentives that we have here, take home, all that stuff. All the information's out there. So, but that's very important.
Yeah, the big thing is, I think, and the Chiefs might edit this out, but every department is imperfect.
Sure.
You're gonna Grand Prairie, there's a lot we get right, but there's stuff we get wrong too. There's decisions get made that I personally don't 100% agree with, but it's about. And there's some departments where Grand Prairie is a great fit for me. There's probably people out there that Grand Prairie might not be a good fit for.
Sure.
Certainly there's been some laterals that have come over, and their pace of work and their work product didn't align with what we were wanting.
Because you're going to work here, baby.
So it didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
And there's a variety of reasons, but you definitely have to find – I think you have to go into it, and especially as a lateral, because to me, one of the most intimidating things was the idea of moving departments, and you get there and it sucks. And then you go back and you look like an idiot, or you got to start over somewhere else. So you go into it with the mindset of, hey, if I go to Grand Prairie, there are going to be hiccups. There's going to be things that I don't 100% agree with, or that could be done better. But the overall body and the overall product, as far as efficiency and what's important to you, I think is what you have to kind of keep in perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Officer Ilan, I appreciate you sitting down with us, bro. I'm sorry I asked so many questions.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just
told
glad
you
you didn't mention Twitter or spaceships.
Or MySpace.
God dang.
That's still not a thing. Okay.
Katie.
Used to be.
Yeah, I'm going to catch up one day.
There's another guy named Elon that I was making a joke.
Oh, yeah.
He has an app, social media app.
I thought he bought something. What did he buy?
Anyway, we appreciate you sitting down with us, man, especially
Thank
now
you,
that we keep bringing it up, and now that we're on video. So it's a little, it's intimidating for me. So I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Till next time.